When I make videos about Asperger syndrome and autism, I try to put a positive spin on everything. This video will be no exception because I want to be an encourager, but we got to admit reality as well. Reality is there is a downside to Asperger syndrome. There are downsides to having autism, and one of those things, one of the downsides, is that people with Asperger syndrome, high functioning autism, can often be just flat out annoying. Why is that, and why, or what rather, can we do about it? One of the reasons that we come across as annoying as the definition of somebody with high functioning autism is an individual who has, number one, autism and an IQ that is either average or above average. So if you have autism, high functioning autism, you are by definition above average or at least average IQ. Now, one of the things that is inherent with people that have high IQs is they tend to, like we said at the beginning, they tend to be a little bit annoying because they feel this need to correct people all the time. We don't have to do it, but somehow we have this compulsion. We're just compelled when somebody says something that we just flat out know is irrelative and it is wrong and it's not correct and it should be very obvious to any thinking person. Then that compulsion kicks in. We have to correct them. That is annoying. Nobody that I know of likes to be corrected all the time. Even if they know they're wrong, there's still that, we all have that little bit of pride in us where we don't like to be put down. Nature put it in everybody, I think. We like to be built up. We like to be encouraged. We don't like to be told that we're wrong. So if you have Asperger syndrome, you tend to be annoying at the very onset, even aside from saying things that are annoying simply because you know better, but simply because we are eccentric rather than concentric. That we don't quite fit the mold that everyone else fits, and that puts us a little bit askew, and then we start correcting people. That just puts a lid on it. I mean, they just don't like that. So here's a good analogy of this. Let's say that there is a picture frame. Somebody just hung a picture on the wall, and you notice it's a little bit askew. So you don't say anything. You just go over and you correct the picture frame. You make it straight, make it nice and level. Well, the other person takes offense because you are implicitly saying you don't know how to hang a picture. So they may go over and put it back the way they had it, even though they know it's wrong. And so you have this compulsion to, it bothers you eventually that this thing is askew. So you go back and correct it. That just annoys people, you know? Sometimes what we need to do, we need to learn to do as autistics, is we need to learn to allow people to be wrong. Just, the world isn't going to come to an end if somebody says something that is incorrect. And if there is no, or if there are no ramifications, just let it slide. So, that's one of the downsides of autism that we could probably correct or make it a whole lot better. Number two is we have, it seems, this insatiable appetite for explanations. That is to say, we want to answer the questions why. We want to answer the question how. And sometimes we don't know that we are being annoying when we do that. Maybe you had a little toddler in your house at one time if you had kids, and they have this stage of life where they want to know why about everything. And so you ask a question, they ask you a question, or you say something, and the little kid will say, why? So you explain why, and then they say, why? And you explain that to them, and they say, why? And, there's nothing wrong with that. They just want to know why. And, there's never a full explanation. Well, people with Asperger syndrome, sometimes we're like that little toddler. We want to know the answers. We want to know the explanations. And when somebody can't give the answer and somebody can't give the explanation, we come across as being over the top, a little bit arrogant, because we keep wanting to know why. I've got a friend who, no matter what you say, he can tell you what's wrong with you. And sometimes he is right, and it's really frustrating. I mean, it's bad enough when he's wrong, but when, say, I say something and I find out that I'm wrong and he corrects me, I think that's sometimes worse than being right and being corrected. Because if I'm right and being corrected, I can, I can prove him wrong, so to speak. But if I'm wrong and corrected, then I look like an idiot. I don't like to look like an idiot. Nobody does. So sometimes we don't realize that we are putting people down just by correcting them or by asking why. Can you tell me, a little bit more explicit detail how this works? Because I'm not sure you're right on that. Well, that's kind of insulting to somebody, and we don't even realize we're doing that. That's one of the downsides of Asperger syndrome. And by the way, that's not just Asperger syndrome, that's anybody. Number 3, one of the downsides of Asperger syndrome is I know a lot of people who have Aspies, who have Asperger's rather, who are Aspies, and they just they feel unfulfilled because they just haven't reached their full potential. They know they could do better. They know that they are being held back because they have mind blindness. They're not socially adept as other people are, but rather are inept, and they just can't function socially, but they know they could do it. And I've seen people with Asperger syndrome who are fortunate enough to have a job in the first place, but they're working fast food, People call that flipping hamburgers or whatever you do at a fast food store. But they could be doing much better, and they know it. I mean, these people, many of them, could be physicians. They could be engineers with high-paying jobs, but they're locked out of the job market simply because they're not able to communicate on a social level. So there they are working fast food, and again, that's if they're fortunate enough to have a job. Now, talk about those who can't get work, which is like, 2/3 of all people who are considered high-functioning autism. That is really a problem, because you know that you could be a great contribution to society as a whole, plus you could better your life and members of your family, but you're being held back. So that's one of the downsides, just feeling unfulfilled. Another one is other people are sometimes envious of you. Now, you may be saying, why would anyone be envious of a person with autism? How many people would say who don't have autism that they would like to have autism? Nobody, but there are elements of the Aspie life, elements of autism that other people don't have. Those certain gifts, those abilities, intelligence being one of them, and your ability to solve problems quickly, and people are jealous of that. I think it's really frustrating to play a game like Trivial Pursuit with somebody who's highly intelligent, and they know all the answers before you even get started. You may as well not even play. It's not a game. They get a turn, and that's the end. They just win the game. Jealous of those people? Not really, but other people are. So that's kind of what we're facing when we do have that ability to solve problems. And other people don't have that ability. They become jealous of us. So that's one of the reasons we get pushed out of the job market often, is because other people have the social stamina to withhold. We don't even have social standing. We don't even know how that thing works. So it's very easy for them to push us out, so they don't have to be jealous anymore. That's one of the downsides. Number 5, it seems that we like to do overthinking. I don't know that I have a real problem with this, but a lot of people do. I have a problem with getting to sleep at night because my mind is working. But usually what I do is I love to take long walks. I'll go out and walk 2.5 miles or so, and that's when my mind just kind of unravels. There's nothing that stops me from just thinking. Freedom of thought. I love it. But sometimes we overthink, and these difficulties and problems that we endure in life, our racing mind keeps us busy. We're analyzing things. We're wondering why this person didn't call me back, why I didn't get the job, or why I got dismissed from the job when I was doing a good job, or why I wasn't doing well in school socially when everyone else is. And after all, you're a good person. Why would you not fit in? But you don't. And all these things, when you start, the older you get, the more it comes to mind, because You're thinking of all these things in your past. You're ruminating. So we have this difficulty where we overthink. Now, some people say, and there's some disagreement on this, that there is an excess of neurons in our frontal cortex, these synaptic connections, and that is why our mind is so busy. It doesn't necessarily make us smarter, but it makes our brain more active. Now, there's another school of thought that says in the amygdala, the number of neurons of synaptic connections actually decreases as you get older, if and only if you have autism. So, there's some disagreement on that, but the point of the matter is most people think, most neurologists who have studied this, at least from what I've been able to find in my searching on the internet, and it's easy to do, you could do the same thing, is that people with autism are characterized physiologically, neurologically, by more neurons, more synaptic firings therefore than others. Maybe that accounts for our overthinking, or part of it. Number 6 is we have limited emotional expression. That personally does not bother me, but it bothers a lot of other people because you have this flat effect. And, I like to talk about being at a ball game and somebody scores a point at the last second and you win the game and everybody explodes. And the guy with autism is just sitting there, what are these people doing? They think we're space aliens because we don't emote the way that they do. And because of that, they may find us a little bit weird. Because you're supposed to act, you're supposed to emote, you're supposed to act crazy like they do. Now, if we stim, a little bit, rock back and forth, or maybe flap our hands, they say, that person, I think, is crazy. But they go absolutely berserk, at a ball game. What is that compared to stimming? To me, that is, stimming all at once, a big explosion. It's kind of like they're having their own meltdown. But, that can be a drawback, at least, not for me, it's not, but in the eyes of other people. That can be a problem. Number 7 is we're more likely to experience, this is a serious problem, more likely to experience depression and anxiety if you have Asperger syndrome. I don't know if that's biological. I don't know if it's neurological. It possibly could be, but I definitely know that there are pressures put on us by our environment, talking about other people, social environment that can lead to depression. We're rejected. Nobody likes to be rejected. Nobody likes to be pushed out or people try to get away from us. That is depressing. That does cause anxiety, and being left alone often causes anxiety, particularly when you need to be in the group for your livelihood. Now, turn me loose out in the woods somewhere. I'll be perfectly happy as long as I have something to eat and I can keep the mean critters away. I could live in the woods the rest of my life. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those times when you need social connections and you can't have them. That can lead, I believe, to depression. Number 8 rather, is consequently just loneliness. The inability to relate to other people. So you find yourself all alone. Some people with Asperger syndrome have a real difficulty with that, particularly when they're younger. When I was, grade school age, junior high age, high school age, even into college age, I had a real problem with just being alone all the time and feeling so hurt, so depressed. I could literally feel it in my gut. I mean, there was a painful sensation, or more painful, probably a tightness, that was in my gut that just hurt, As I get older, I'm finding out, I kind of like being alone. Actually, if I go into a restaurant all by myself, I go in during off hours when there's no crowd, I'm perfectly happy. But this ability to relate to other people can be a serious downside to Asperger syndrome. There are a couple rectangles on the screen. You may want to keep our conversation going. And I got to say, we got dozens, scores of more videos that you can listen to, so we can keep our conversation going, keep hanging out as long as you want to. But if you got to go, well, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you all next time.